Hey, everybody. Before we get into this edition of the Reality Flash, which I'm really excited about because we've got some Dancing with the Stars drama to get into. And it's not even involving people who are currently on the show. And somehow I'm involved. If that's not enough of a tease, I don't know what is. But before we get into it, I just wanted to issue a very quick thanks. Of course, I got the chance to go out to San Francisco last week to attend the RHAP live show, which was so much fun. It was the biggest crowd yet, and you made everyone, be it survivor, podcaster, etc., just feel so supported around our love of the unscripted genre. And I was approached by so many people about how much they like the Reality Flash, which truly means a lot. We are coming up upon nearly a year of me doing this. This is certainly something that's been very experimental for RHAP when I was first pitched this show of like, hey, let's do a quick bite news show, not to be confused with a Quibi news show. If you know, you know, where it's all about, these random bits of drama and news and tea that comes from the world of reality TV, where you can bring them what you need to know, who you need to know about, and why you need to know it. And I've had so much fun doing it. I've had so many great opportunities to get to dive into shows, dive into fandoms that I was not like a huge expert on. I was thrilled for people who said that like they hadn't heard of certain pieces of news before I brought it to their attention, or people who had heard of the news but wanted me to sort of like spill the hot goss on it as well. We try to wear a lot of hats here. We're a haberdasher extraordinaire here on the Reality Flash, and we would not be here without you all. We would not be able to do what we do without the overwhelming support that we receive through every podcast that we do. So I just want to take the time off the bat here, since this is the first podcast I'm doing after the live show, to thank everybody, not only for those who approached me in person at the show, but for everyone who has, expressed their support through comments here on social media, or even just people who flat out listen. I am so happy I get this opportunity to bring you all the breaking news from the wide world of reality TV, especially when I am somehow involved in the middle of it. So, without further ado, here's this episode of The Reality Flash. Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Reality Flash. My name is Mike Bloom, and I'm here to bring you the flashiest breaking news in the wide world of reality TV. Today, Dancing with the Stars' 20th birthday celebration brought Tom Bergeron, the beloved former host, back into the spotlight. But there's a former winner who has a bone, or should I say bones, to pick with him. I'll get into more of that in just a bit, including how I wound up getting involved in it all somehow. But first, you know how I start all these things off by taking a couple of steps to the left, step to the right, and step mainly into talking about how I need your subs and I need your tips. Make sure you subscribe to The Reality Flash by going to therealityflash.com. And while you're there, give your metaphoric 10 paddle. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. Let me know your thoughts about this, why other people should check it out. We are a very wide-reaching type of show, just considering how much reality TV is out there. And so we want to be able to sort of have a little bit for everybody. And hopefully you being able to spread the word through your ratings and reviews would be able to do that. And of course, speaking of how widespread reality TV is, I can only cover so much. There's only so many reality stars I could interview and incidentally get up in the middle of drama with. So feel free to send me any thoughts you might have, any stories you want me to cover. No spam, no solicitations, just tips at therealityflash.com. Again, just tips, like those winged tip shoes that a dancer loves to adorn on the set of Dancing with the Stars, which we got to see Tom Bergeron return to in his highly acclaimed appearance, this time behind the judges panel. Certainly not a familiar position we're used to seeing him behind. Let's give a little bit of context here, a little bit of history of Dancing with the Stars, because I know that there's probably a lot of newer fans of the show, but real ones remember back in the day, Tom Bergeron was holding it down from the very beginning through a whole cavalcade of co-hosts that came his way, be it, the Aaron Andrews that he most recently saw, or I think it's like Brooke Charvet, I think was another Skybox consultant back in the day. But regardless, he was the venerated host, one of the pillars of Dancing with the Stars. And that pillar promptly crumbled in 2020 when he was shockingly and unceremoniously fired in June of that year alongside Aaron Andrews. Of course, a lot of stuff has come out after the fact, most prominently being that he was very vocal. We'll talk about this in just a little bit. It become very prominent in this particular podcast. Tom Bergeron, a very outspoken man. He always keeps it 100. And so he was perhaps speaking up about the fact that he did not agree with Sean Spicer, who was formerly in President Donald Trump's cabinet, of being on the show. We find out later that there was also some bristling with him and the showrunner at the time. Regardless, this was sort of, I guess, the cherry on top of this pretty poo-poo Sunday. What is interesting is that the entire inciting incident behind this brouhaha is the fact that I got the chance to talk with Tom Bergeron for my sister gig over at parade.com. I was very excited to talk with him. We spoke a few days before he would end up appearing back on Dancing with the Stars. Again, very eagerly anticipated. If you haven't listened to the podcast that Matt and Sasha do each and every week, please do, because it's fantastic. But I mean, still to this day, when people post about Dancing with the Stars, comment sections can be filled with people saying, bring back Tom. There was a huge uproar with the fact that Tom did get the axe, especially in lieu of bringing in someone like Tyra Banks, who had a polarized reception, to say the least. But Tom actually revealed to me, here's a little bit of the tea, that he was actually contracted to go through season 30. So he got fired after season 28. So he only would have done 2 more years. He only would have gone until 2022. And what he told me was that, like, he did not plan on extending it anytime soon. I mean, again, he was not particularly happy with the direction the show had gone. Maybe we'll get into that a bit with the other party involved in this feud. And so he was looking to move on to other things. And so, this was maybe a bit of a premature departure from the show, not on his own terms necessarily. But I found that incredibly interesting that he was already kind of seeking greener pastures and was looking to move on in a couple of years, a couple of seasons, had he not been so unceremoniously let go. But regardless of being let go, they reeled him back in to come in for this 20th birthday party as a guest judge. It was a lot of fun, obviously a night full of reverence, and seeing Tom there, having him be able to be behind the paddles, provide his own unique perspective, just really added to how special the night was, how much of a celebration it was, while also simultaneously having a whole ass dance competition. But all that is to say, just the night's delightful set dressing here for the main event, which is, again, I got the chance to talk with Tom Bergeron and, get a chance to do a little bit of navel gazing, a little bit of looking back at 20 years of Dancing with the Stars. And so, as a part of that, I asked Tom Bergeron a question. It was a pretty, simple one. We have had a number of shocking eliminations, of course, with eliminations being determined to be a popular vote. We've experienced this time in memoriam with shows like Idol from the very beginning. We'll continue to, as long as the American public is voting. There are sure to be controversial decisions that are made, to say the least. But, of course, there's a laundry list to choose from across 2 decades of Dancing with the Stars. You've got your Sabrina Bryans, you've got your Juan Pablos, you've gotten even this season, you could argue like a Lauren Jorge might be a shocking boot. So, of course, I had to get Tom's opinion on it, do a little bit of past reflection. And true to loving to sort of like roll with the punches in a live setting, Tom decides to throw a bit of a haymaker here, perhaps incidentally, towards a previous contestant. So again, I asked Tom what was the most shocking elimination, and his answer to this, quote unquote, was posted on Parade's TikTok, Instagram, social media, etc. Let's give a listen to what Tom answered and specifically who he wants to call out in this video.
Funny, you're asking about eliminations. The thing that shocked me most was a win.
Oh, tell me more.
Bobby Bones.
Mm.
That was when I went, like Andy Richter this season is charming and, has such a big heart. Do I think he's going to win? No. Um, do I think he's bringing a quality to the show that epitomizes what the show is? Absolutely. But Bobby Bones was the first time it was like, ouch. No disrespect to Bobby, he would probably say the same thing.
Spoiler alert, he would not say the same thing. But before we get into that, I just want to do a little bit of background on who Bobby Bones might be. Let's get into the bones of Bobby Bones. So for those who don't know, Bobby Bones is a very successful radio host. I believe he specifically specializes in country music, but he is a very long-time radio host, very celebrated personality. Yeah, so he's a hosts the nationally syndicated Bobby Bones show. But perhaps the more pertinent detail for his time on Dancing with the Stars was that at the time, he was the in-house mentor for American Idol when it made its return on ABC, when it took like a legitimate breath off and then hopped back on the air after departing on Fox. Bobby Bones was brought in as they did this a little bit towards the tail end of Fox's run with Randy Jackson as sort of an in-house dog in the pound, someone from the music industry, celebrated individual to help provide advising to these contestants each and every week about the song they were choosing, the choices in approaching the song, in musicality, tone, dynamics, etc., etc. Bobby did that for a couple of years, but as part of a sort of cross promotion between the two ABC products, the House of Mouse came down and said, "Bobby, get off the mic and lace up your dancing shoes because you are going on Dancing with the Stars." Now, I say this as to not, encourage any more controversy or responses because we'll certainly get into what that entails in just a little bit. But I have sort of made the comparison in the past for Survivor fans that Bobby Bones to me is sort of like the Mike Gabler of Dancing with the Stars. For those of you who did not watch his season, he was on season 27 back in, I believe, 2018, where he was partnered with Sharna Burgess. And as Tom describes, Bobby Bones, not necessarily the strongest dancer, something that even he would admit to. He technically didn't hit the bottom of the leaderboard, like the very bottom, until the last couple of weeks. Luckily, we had a grocery store Joe there from The Bachelor, really discounting his own scores in a manner of speaking with his performances, but certainly not regarded as one of the top performers. And ordinarily on a show like Dancing with the Stars, which is maybe a bit more performance forward, they look more so towards, the Milo Manheims, the Ivana Lynches, for example, of, okay, this person is doing pretty well in the competition. They might have a bit of a following from their respective fan bases. They have a chance of getting the mirror ball. Not the case with Bobby Bones. Bobby, through his fan base, again, he has amassed a large following from all the work he does on the radio. They followed him over to another medium in TV. And despite, watching what Bobby was putting forward to the best of his ability every week, he kept getting voted through time and time again. I think this is why Tom makes a very salient comparison to Andy Richter, who, again, was putting his best out there. And, from the outside, you're saying, how does this, he can't keep getting away with this, but I think it was due to the groundswell of support. Maybe a bit of the underdog aspect as well, right? Of like, oh, they feel pretty outclassed when it comes to the dancing department, but they're trying their hardest. All that served as a swarming, I should say, around Bobby Bones that built him a nice skeleton of a base that not only got him through to the finale, but got him the win. It is regarded, and I can say this objectively, has one of the most shocking results in Dancing with the Stars history. I think a lot of people have seen these cases before where it's okay, it's the guy who is not necessarily the best dancer, but he's very popular with the audience. He'll make it to the finale, maybe get, third, maybe second place. For some reason, the one that really comes to mind for me is like Bill Engvall as an example of like, okay, it's really fun that you made the finale, but there's no way you're going to win. This was the exception. And it did prompt a bit of a controversial outcry, I would say, from the audience. They were upset that who they felt was not the best dancer by a long shot took home the Mirror Ball trophy. And for what it's worth, not to say that the show has outright come out and, talked down Bobby's win, though he might disagree. Again, we'll get to that in a bit. But it is notable that starting in season 29, the season after, a lot of changes were made. This is, when Tom and Aaron are starting to be on the way out. They're going to be shifting slowly to going to Disney Plus. Remember that experiment where they were on Disney Plus only? But they decided to start incorporating the judges' scores more. It was sort of enigmatic previously what percentage of the judges' scores were incorporated into the final result. Was it just a dog and pony show to be like, well, Carrie Ann says it's an 8, so I guess it's good? Or was it serving as some sort of factor in the wide stream calculus that would determine whether or not someone stayed or went home on Dancing with the Stars? We're still not entirely sure, if I recall correctly, how much it is now. I know it has increased because I think they want to incorporate the quality of the dancer more into the ultimate result. Now, again, there could be exceptions. Andy Richter, bless his heart, is a key example of this, that even if you try to factor in for this variable, if someone has enough support behind them, it's what pushes them through at the end of the day. I believe Tom himself quipped that Bobby was the people's champion at the end of his season. I don't know if the people would agree, especially those who are online, but it's safe to say that Bobby Bones' win did change a lot of what Dancing the Stars was at its bones. And I think it's still looked back upon as, one of the biggest sort of inflection points in the show. And the man involved in the inflection point, watch this video. I'll be back in a flash to tell you how he responded. All right, I've done enough setup here. I've done enough of the rehearsal package. Let's get to the routine proper. Let's get to the real ish. Let's get to the reason why we're here. We're going to spill the tea on what Bobby Bones had to say in response to Tom Bergeron's interview with me, where he once again said that the result that surprised him the most was Bobby Bones' win, that it had him reacting. I don't want to act out his onomatopoeia, but a bit of ouch. So Bobby saw this at one point, and it's interesting just going into my own sort of a journey with this because I ended up getting involved. I truly do not know how this ended up happening. There's enough of these that are happening to a certain point where I'm like, am I the baddie? Am I the problem at this point? Should I keep getting involved with this? But then that means I can't make any more episodes of this wonderful show. But let me show you what I found yesterday on Parade's TikTok. Just randomly, taking a look as to what the public was thinking about what Tom was saying with regards to Bobby Bones' win. Bobby Bones himself makes a comment that says, dang, go on, work hard, catch strays. Which kind of sounds like the lyrics of a Daft Punk song, but obviously, very, very taciturn, I believe the word is. Just very, very terse is a better word to say. Dang, go on, work hard, catch strays. He didn't seem to be very happy. At the moment, I'm like, oh yeah, this is light shade. Clearly Bobby has been receiving this a lot since 2018, but, I'm sure, as Tom alludes to, he'll take it in good stride. That said, let's give a listen to what Bobby Bones responded with. And yes, he responded. This was actually sent to me, full disclosure, by producer of Rob Has a Podcast, Scott St. Pierre. He just randomly sent me oh yeah, did you hear that Bobby Bones responded to your interview with Tom Bergeron? And I did not. So I had to check it out for myself. And I got to play this for you all because we got to take this apart piece by piece, bone by bone.
Not to get my feelings hurt, especially about stuff like this, but this was hurtful, and not because of what was said, but really who said it. Anyway, I'm going to play a video now of Tom Bergeron, who I really like, who I admire, from Dancing with the Stars. He was the host when I was there. Him talking about me, except they didn't even ask a question about me. He flipped it to give me as the answer.
You know, it's funny you're asking about eliminations. The thing that shocked me most was a win.
Oh, tell me more.
Bobby Bones. That was when I went, you know, Bobby Bones was the first time I kind of, it was like, ouch.
Like, what was I supposed to do on that show? I didn't even want to be on the show. Like, I had no intention of being on Dancing with the Stars. I was working on a different show at the network. They asked me to go on the show to promote. Am I supposed to not show up and work hard? Am I supposed to not give it freaking everything that I have? Am I supposed to, like, throw it and not win? Like, it's crazy the amount of hate I get, even from people that I respect, like Tom Bergeron there. And Julianne Hough, which I don't know her, but I feel like a 6th grader, and like all the 9th grade dancing kids are shoving me in lockers.
All right, we'll pause down there for a second before we get into, I want to pause on the, like, Jeff Probst-esque school metaphor that Bobby Bones makes there, because there's some stuff that I want to unpack here. So Bobby mentioned that, you know, he had been receiving criticism from people who are affiliated with the show, like Tom Bergeron and like Julianne Hough. And what he's referring to is actually something that Julianne, who, to Bobby's point, was not involved with the show, was just, you know, a former champion, a former judge, but something that she's a current co-host of, said last summer on Watch What Happens Live. And while people have certainly poked fun at Julianne's unique ability to ask questions, she also has quite a fiery way of answering questions, as well as she was alongside country singer Mickey Guyton, and she was asked about a celebrity winner she, quote, strongly disagreed with. And she said, quote, I just said Bobby Bones. I actually agree with you, and I think it's because, or I should say, actually, Mickey Guyton said, I just said Bobby Bones. Julianne replies, I actually agree with you, and I think it's because of the fan base. It's all about fan base on that show. He was not the best dancer. Even in that moment, Bobby wasn't entirely happy about that. You know, again, he sort of felt like it was a bit of a pot shot towards him, considering that, you know, again, they'd only met a couple of times. He said at the time, I was the worst dancer. I take pride in that. Now, I tried as hard as anybody in the history of the show, but I can't dance now, couldn't dance then. But you know who took down the big evil empire of dance? Well, it's not evil or an empire, but me and you. We did it together. I'm the greatest champion ever. I didn't say I was the greatest dancer, but the greatest champion ever. I'm a man of the people. I'm a man that you guys selected. But Mickey Guyton, what? Julianne Hough, you're cool. Maybe not feeling that nowadays, considering that this might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. And for what it's worth, again, I'm not necessarily picking a dog in this race. I could really see part of where Bobby is coming from. I mean, for what it's worth, I love the conversation with Tom. He did take my question about eliminations and sort of turned it into a way for him to be like, well, actually, Bobby's win was the thing that shocked me the most. So I could see why he takes it as just a bit of like a random drive-by, as he says, catching strays, just for the fact that he won. And the fact that, as he mentioned, you know, it seems like he was somewhat brought on against his will, or at least the way he's sort of describing it now. And so when he kind of found himself in this situation, he felt the best thing he could do was just try as hard as he can, you know, outside of him actually telling people, hey, please don't vote for me and publicly begging to do so. There aren't a lot of ways outside of outright quitting the competition for you to be able to sort of disincentivize people from voting for you, especially if you have a built-in fan base. And so, you know, I do see a lot of where he is coming from. I do not think Tom meant anything by this, but I could also see from Bobby's perspective, if he has been sort of been receiving this critique and sort of these shots taken at him for 7 years now at this point. If at a certain amount, you can only take so many bullets before he eventually goes down. But what's most interesting about this, from my perspective, is that all of this led to Bobby deciding to engage in a very unique gesture across 20 years of Dancing with the Stars. Let's see what he had to say.
It is crazy. Like, was I supposed to show up and go, well, since I didn't have any training as a kid, I should just not win this competition? Like, what did I do? Like, I had a great attitude. I worked hard. And here we are, like 6 years later, I'm still catching strays out of nowhere. So I sent the trophy back. They don't want me to be a part of the show, obviously. So I don't want to be somewhere that doesn't want me to be there. So I sent the trophy back to ABC. I no longer have the Mirror Ball trophy. I loved my time there, but I would say things like this, Tom or Julianne, or there are even people that I work closely with, taking random shots at me this week that have just taken all the joy away from my time on that show, which is crazy because it was such a great, joyous time. Even though I was the only one in the whole, crew that was dancing that had a full-time job at the same time. So I'm out. Nobody wants me there anyway, so go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. But yeah, the Bergeron thing hurt a little bit, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I have super thick skin, but all right, that's all. Just wanted to say that final thing.
Bobby might have thick skin, but he has shed a layer in form of the metallic gleam of the Mirror Ball trophy. He gave it back to ABC? That's wild. That's pretty dang wild, I am a relatively new sports fan, but I feel like usually only getting medals and trophies and championships stripped if I don't know, you're tested positive for doping or some sort of controversy after the fact. He decided to abdicate the throne right now. He sent the Mirror Ball back to ABC. First off, if this indeed happened, if he was not being over the top and literally sent the trophy back, I need to know what form of postage was used. Did it show up wrapped up in bubble wrap with just kind of a note plastered to it that said "F off, sincerely yours, Bobby Bones"? Just uses his personal stationery or something. Did he use 3-day shipping? Or did he really just want to take his time with it, say, give it 2 weeks. It's okay if it gets lost in the mail. I know that USPS is going through a lot right now with the shutdown. Let some, nice postal worker get to hold on to the Mirror Ball trophy because it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. What do you do with the Mirror Ball trophy? Are they inscribed? Are they awards where it has your name on the bottom? Can it be given to somebody else? Could they give away 2 Mirror Ball trophies this year? Because now they have one kind of in storage. They could go with the RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 4 of it all and say, actually, we have a tie. You take one and you take one. They don't need to split the tiara Mean Girl style. I'm not sure, but there is something really hysterical, not going to lie, about if you were working for Dancing with the Stars and you just get a ding dong at the door and it's Amazon Prime or a courier or something, and it's just a very oblong looking thing wrapped in, brown paper, perhaps angrily done so out of fits of emotion. And then you unwrap it and it is Bobby Bones having returned his Mirror Ball trophy, saying that he no longer wants to be considered the winner of Dancing with the Stars season 27. I don't know if it just goes to the next person. If this is a pageant, does Milo Manheim, is he now officially the winner of Dancing with the Stars? I'm not entirely sure. They say flags fly forever, but what happens if you take that flag down and you burn it? And I would say that Bobby felt pretty burned by Tom and by the show in general. Again, I don't think Tom necessarily meant any harm by this. Again, Tom is somebody that is known to speak pretty off the cuff, even when he was on the show, and maybe that was something that maybe got him in a little bit of that hot water to begin with, is he was posting on social media during the season about how much he disagreed with casting somebody like Sean Spicer on the show. And so, I think it made sense that he was open and honest. He certainly said a good number of just very honest things to me during our interview, which is, of course, as a journalist, I'm very appreciative of. And I really don't think he meant anything by it. Again, as he finished with me in that clip, says, I think that Bobby would feel the exact same way. And so it got around both Tom's interview and Bobby's response to Tom's interview, to the point where it got back to Tom Bergeron. And so I believe Tom Bergeron posted this on his Instagram stories yesterday, some sort of story, that he had actually DM'd Bobby Bones to apologize for the situation. So the actual message reads, Bobby, it wasn't my intention to hurt your feelings. My ouch was based on my honest feeling that your win spoke to a need to address the balance between judge and viewer voting. That's what I was speaking about earlier in terms of trying to weight the percentages better. I always felt bad that you and Sharna had to deal with the aftermath of that win, and I certainly regret pouring any salt into that old wound. And then Tom's also sort of like screenshotted this, put it on his story, and commented on it saying, I was doing so many interviews leading up to the 20th, I was bound to say something inelegantly. Facepalm. No word yet, I believe, as to whether Bobby accepted Tom's apology, either privately or publicly. But yeah, that sort of is the surprising smoke that came out of this 20th birthday party. A very sweet occasion that bred a little bit of a salty outcome. It does seem like maybe Bobby has been feeling resentment towards the way that his win has been received for more than half a decade. And this was the thing to finally make him snap, in a manner of speaking. I mean, for what it's worth, I have been so obviously interested in the situation, considering my sort of tangential involvement in it all. And so I have been doing a little bit of cursory research, checking out people's responses to these videos across social media. And honestly, it has been a bit mixed from what I've been receiving. There are a good amount of people, especially in response to that initial Tom video, that were like, yeah, listen, I was certainly shocked when Bobby won. You could see it on everyone's faces, Tom included. It was a shocking moment for the show. So I'm there with you, buddy. There are some people that are like, Tom took it way too far. Why did he have to just, come in with the drive-by against Bobby Bones when that wasn't even the question? Bobby tried his hardest. And then in response to Bobby's video, there is a bit of like, yes, you absolutely earned it. You did nothing wrong. You tried your best. And what else did they want you to do? Protect your peace. There are some people that are like, why are you complaining about this so much if you supposedly have thick skin? What about the fact, allegedly, that he was, campaigning for votes on his radio show if he didn't really want to win, or maybe not speaking so highly about his competition as well? So there is a lot of sort of like positive and negative towards both parties at the end of this. And again, we don't want to breed any necessarily fan wars on one side or the other. But I guess Dancing with the Stars could maybe take a break from the fan wars drama and move into a surprisingly tense dynamic between the former host of a show and a former winner of the show. But I want to hear your thoughts, especially on the notes of what I was just speaking about. You have heard now both videos, both Tom's response and the response to the response from Bobby. Do you agree with Tom? What did you think about what he said? Do you feel like Bobby's response was warranted? Did you think he actually sent the Mirror Ball trophy back? Let me know your thoughts, of course, here in the comments on YouTube, as well as on social media at a Mike Bloom type. And again, if there's anything out there brewing drama between host and contestant, or drama that exists elsewhere out there, Lord knows we are certainly not deprived of it anytime soon. You know where to reach me, therealityflash.com, where you can subscribe, rate, and review us, as well as just tips at therealityflash.com. And of course, you can follow me personally at a Mike Bloom type as well. That's going to do it for this episode of The Reality Flash. I'm again still a little bum puzzled that I ended up getting involved in all of this too. Just, purely with a 2-second appearance. But I seem to attract trouble wherever I go. But regardless, I will bring you news of said trouble and my momentary involvement of it and what it means for the reality TV world at large. You can check out also at Parade a bunch of stuff that I talked about with Tom. He does mention the Bobby stuff in a breakout that I did with him about, the one result that shocked him the most. He talked about the celebrity that he would most want to see on the show. He talked about whether he would want to be a contestant, which was a response that had me particularly cackling considering how out of nowhere it was. A lot of great stuff from Tom, both on Tuesday night as well as in my interviews with him. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Reality Flash. I'll be back in your eyes and ears soon with more reality TV news as it breaks. Until then, everybody, you've just been flashed.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.